Hello and welcome to the Smarter Food Supply Chain webinar series. AIM North America is an alliance enabling the cooperation, development, standardization of AIDC technologies. From barcodes to RFID to IoT, AIM North America is your advocate. Any organization with an interest in data collection is a beneficiary of these efforts. Membership provides an opportunity to influence the direction of the industry, develop policies and standards, access market reports, and engage new partners. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items I would like to go over. It's the policy of AIM Inc. to conduct its operations in strict compliance with the antitrust laws. No AIM activity shall create even the appearance of a violation of the letter or spirit of the antitrust laws. AIM committee meetings and presentations are held for the primary purpose of advancements in our industry, which necessarily involves development of work product intended solely for the public domain. AIM's developed this policy for the protection of its members who engage in this important collaborative effort. Today, I'm here with two industry experts from Zebra Technologies. Susan Flake, Director of RFID Business Development with over 30 years experience in retail. The last 15 focuses on expanding the item-level RFID initiatives in the retail and hospitality markets. And Colin Goodwin, who is the North America Independent Software Vendor Business Development Manager, responsible for retail and hospitality. Today, they will be speaking on how food safety plays a pivotal role within the supply chain now more than ever. Colin, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. So thanks everyone for joining. The goal of today's presentation is to better understand the importance of food safety from both an economic impact standpoint and why customers look to their hardware vendors to drive innovation, as well as the types of workflows that will contribute to a safer food experience for consumers. Next slide. So why food safety? Here we have three major factors that are constantly top of mind for our customers. In terms of foodborne diseases, 1 in 6 people will get sick each year according to the CDC, which is obviously a highly daunting number. I feel like everything in this industry is about trust, and each instance of a consumer getting sick is unfortunately an opportunity to lose that trust from the customer, as well as the cost of a single recall being around $10 million. It's up to industry providers of technology and software to really make sure that the solutions being built and installed are fast and easy and extremely reliable. With food waste, around 161 billion in loss of food from consumer and point of consumption. Retailers and restaurants need to make sure that they have a plan in place to accurately track and cycle inventory. We recently actually worked with a major QSR company out of the Midwest who was trying to build out a new inventory system and get hyper visibility into their inventory, so much so that we actually went down to the actual weight of the salt that was being put on their French fries and being put out the door. So high level of traceability is where inventory traceability is where we're going to see a lot of savings in food waste. And that brings us to event traceability, which we're seeing a lot of this being driven, not just us, but I'm sure you guys are too, seeing this being driven by the consumer. These days, everybody wants is coming from, how it's handled, what's going into it. And I believe this is, once we get into the use cases, this is something that Sue will dive a little deeper into. And next slide. So here we wanted to get, we call it the end user dilemma, but that's really our retailers, our restaurants, food manufacturers, kind of what it is that goes into the buying decision when deciding to, revamp their food safety structure. So as you can see here, we have another 4 main areas that we try to help guide the decision makers. So reduce, the common denominator here with all of our customers is to reduce contamination, which is greatly helped by the digitization of workflows, like inventory management, HACCP protocols, labeling. It just removes a lot of the user error in the process piece. So we feel it is our job, as a technology provider, to be trusted advisors to our customer, because that's building the strength of trust between us and the customer. We want to guide with the right hardware for the job, professional services, and connecting the customer with the right partner that's going to help build out, the specific custom use case that they need to help better drive their efficiencies. And then I think this goes hand in hand with expertise. We as a solution provider need to make sure that we are educating the customer on, what's going on in the market around them, helping them narrow down exactly what it is needed to help affect the bottom line and build a safer food program for their customers. And then cost really comes down to what your pain points are and how the proposed solution is going to affect the bottom line. Every use case comes with its idiosyncrasies in terms of hardware and the different costs involved with it. So when we are talking with customers, we like to start with 4 main use cases: inventory management, eHACCP, food labeling, and traceability. And then we feel that a lot of the more specific use cases all trickle down from those 4 main master use cases. Next. All right, so in terms of thought leadership, as I alluded to on the last slide, we want to position ourselves really as the trusted advisors with the customer. We need to form a better trust to really understand how we're going to translate the ROI. We serve some of the largest customers in the world, from farms, manufacturers, distributors, QSRs, grocery chains. We really pride ourselves on being able to go through the entire supply chain for a seamless transition of goods. Internally, we have subject matter experts. This is something that we believe, no matter what hardware manufacturer you're talking to, you want to make sure that they have somebody who is really ingrained in the industry, who can speak to GS1, HACCP, USDA, FSMA, really all the regulatory compliance, and understand how the market around them is going to affect the decisions they make and what hardware they put into their restaurant, store, manufacturing facility. From a data services perspective, the advent of blockchain has proven to be a pretty powerful tool in terms of visibility across the supply chain. It doesn't matter which blockchain a customer is using. You want to make sure that, if you're installing hardware, any type of hardware or program, software program within your establishment, you want to make sure that come the advent of blockchain, you want to make sure that everything can be posted adequately. And then ecosystem development. There are many partners in the industry who have developed really great solutions, but we feel that really nobody is a true one-stop shop. In order to be really successful in this market, we think suppliers need to efficiently partner together with various third-party software and hardware vendors to make sure that we're conveying the right solution. Because, we have a lot of partners out there that specialize in one thing, and, we don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time a customer needs a new system or use case solved. And then next. So this slide is just to give a more visual representation of the types of hardware used across the supply chain. You'll see printing represented by a barcode. That can be food labeling. It can be a number of different things. Mobile computing, which is very convenient, both back and front of the house. In transit between manufacturer and distributor. RFID, which kind of goes across all of these segments, from all the way from agriculture through to the point of sale, and then scanning, which everybody thinks of the point of sale scanner or an inventory scanner in back of the house. So also you'll show here the different verticals, and I'd spoken before about the 4 main master use cases, and here's some use cases that we think we commonly see that trickle down from those across the different verticals, from agriculture all the way to point of consumption. And next slide. Then we'll turn it over to Sue to kind of talk a little more about regulatory compliance and some of the common use cases within the industry, and just dive a little deeper into those.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Michael. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So one of the ways that we keep a pulse of the industry is by being active in a number of organizations and groups. In addition to AIM, we also participate in the open forum meetings for the FDA's new era of smarter food safety. This initiative's goal is to implement the Food Safety Modernization Act, really by leveraging, among other things, the use of new and emerging technologies, as well as new approaches to some of today's food system's biggest food safety challenges. It's a timely manner. It's a 3-year plan that was outlined earlier this year to protect public health and keep pace with today's ever-changing global food supply chain. A number of other organizations also play key roles in food safety, including GS1 with standards, SQF, or the Safe Quality Food Program, the Global Food Safety Initiative, and HACCP, where food safety is addressed from raw production all the way to the finished product itself. Next, please. Being able to provide a safer environment for the consumer is becoming top of mind. Staying compliant with state and local regulations is a must. Checklists are crucial for providing a baseline to prove that regulations are being effectively observed. Wireless monitoring systems that automatically and consistently transmit relevant data, such as temperature, to the cloud with real-time notifications that say, for example, the cooler refrigeration is not at a preset range of 40 degrees, or a checklist hasn't been completed by an associate, etc., along with data monitoring and reporting in real time that can be easily accessed and viewed by any web-enabled device today. Next, please. Inventory visibility is crucial at the restaurant level, as well as distributor and manufacturer. A restaurant's second highest spend is the food that's sitting on their shelves, with labor being the number one. Even today, most restaurants, believe it or not, still take inventory via pad and paper, sometimes on a tablet, and then that has to be transferred into a back office system. Being able to digitize in some form your inventory not only frees up labor for other critical tasks, but it also ensures things like first in, first out, gives you visibility to shelf life, gives you visibility to how long an item might have been sitting in the restaurant, gives you visibility to expiration data. It's also having a digitized inventory allows you to do food recalls in a much more efficient manner. Imagine being able to scan for a lot code very quickly as opposed to putting eyes on each case label. You can track unexpected food usage and help prevent theft from happening. Food waste can be significantly decreased, and you can prevent over and under ordering, as well as reduce the number of transfers between stores, which is both a safety and an insurance concern. You can also reduce the number of chargebacks with distributors with accurate inbound receipts and handle them in a very timely manner as well. Lots of positives for digitizing the supply chain. Next slide, please. And one way of digitizing the supply chain and providing traceability is through the use of RFID, applied at case level, which in essence uniquely identifies that particular case. Raw material is produced and manufactured. The box or the case is RFID tagged, recorded, and that product is sent to distribution. From there, it flows into the restaurant and has been tracked along the journey, most likely through the use of a blockchain that is able to connect the dots between the farm to the end consumer. Having this visibility allows for a very efficient quality and product control. Next, please. And in talking about compliancy and safety, another solution is our direct thermal paper label that has a special adhesive that actually dissolves under running water. So once this label hits water, it breaks down into small paper fibers. The adhesive washes away from the surface cleanly. It then goes down the drain, leaving no trace. Imagine how you remove labels today from containers before washing them. It can be frustrating. You're trying to spend time rubbing off the rest of that adhesive. Occasionally, the whole label goes down the drain, blocking the drain, leaving a mess, etc. So imagine the prep bin that's used for green pepper today, tomatoes tomorrow, cheese the next day, and so on, and being able to quickly relabel that bin appropriately with the product and date information with no mess, staying compliant to food safety labeling requirements. As you can see, the labels are printable as well, so no more trying to figure out another coworker's handwriting. Next, please. With today's new norm and in response to COVID-19, Zebra has proactively created a response page to address the safe cleaning of our product portfolio, which includes the scanners, printers, and mobile computers. With that being said, many of our partners are also offering free COVID-19 related solutions such as learning content, checklists, scheduling programs, and survey forms. We are also partnering to provide kiosk and mobile device sanitation systems for use between customers and/or associates. Next, please. And with COVID-19 and the stay at home, there's been an uptick in curbside service, drive-thrus, and home delivery. We've seen quick serve restaurants typically having just one drive-thru lane now have 4 or 5 with traffic wrapping around their store. The use of tablets will help to optimize these services. Things to look out for when investigating a tablet solution is to make sure it has a large outdoor viewable screen, that it can be used by associates who now have to wear gloves, along with an anti-reflective glass for ease and readability, no matter what condition. For the consumer, on the other hand, this can greatly reduce the wait time and both guarantee the accuracy of their order as well as the freshness of their food, regardless of the delivery mechanism. Next, please. Contactless payment is another emerging technology and necessity in today's environment. When looking for a solution, be sure to take these considerations into mind. The ability to scan barcodes off of cell phones. That's almost a must now in today's world. For instance, at the drive-thru where the scanner may be outdoors through the window in sunlight, potentially in the elements, make sure it can read off the cell phone. Make sure it will handle all of your mobile considerations, which include maybe payments, loyalty, and coupons. Be sure that it's lightweight. Be sure that it's ergonomic. Look for a variety of mounting options. Make sure you protect your future, and be sure it's easy to manage and configure. And most importantly, be sure it's IP rated to work in the food environment. Next, please. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Colin, who will share a case study on a kitchen compliance application that was rolled out with the Caesars Entertainment Group.
Thanks, Sue. Like Sue said, just a real quick case study on what we did with Caesars Entertainment, actually with their high-end French restaurant, Guy Savoy. So, Mike, next slide. So the ultimate goal here was to digitize the workflows within the kitchen to minimize the amount of manual error and keep the kitchen staff doing what they do best, which is, behind the line, serving the customer. As you can imagine, Las Vegas actually has some of the most stringent food safety policies in the world, just by the sheer number of people who visit every year. So digitizing this process really helped them gain almost near flawless accuracy over the manual method, which was very prone to mistakes and lost paperwork. Working with a partner, we were able to leverage mobile computers and LoRaWAN sensors to monitor refrigeration, alert staff of any deviation in temperature through push notifications, and what you'll see on the next slide, a cook-chill process that they were running in the back of the house, monitoring through Bluetooth probes. So next slide. So as you can see here, this is just a little diagram of how the system worked. So if you think about cook-chill, it's pretty much a reverse sous vide, if anyone is familiar with the process. So what the restaurant was doing was cooking food. It was done cooking, hyper chilling it, and then putting it in storage. So as soon as the food hit the heat, we're monitoring temperature from beginning to storage. Not shown here, the whole process is actually shown both on our mobile computer, one of our mobile computers, and monitors set up around the kitchen, so that both chefs, sous chefs, prep cooks, everything can monitor the entire cooking process from start to finish. So, a soup is being cooked, monitored, uploaded to the cloud through iCertainty, and then once it's put in storage, the LoRaWAN sensors are monitoring those storage temperature, that nothing goes out of spec. And if a reach-in or a walk-in goes warmer than it should be, it'll send push notifications to the to either the chefs or other kitchen staff to come in and mediate the whatever the risk is. So at the end of the day, this resulted in about a 66% savings in food and labor costs. They could reduce the number of errors just because everything was done at the click of a button. They weren't losing recipe books and all their temperature logs, and really kept the kitchen staff doing what they do best. So, next slide. So last year in 2019, just to wrap things up, we celebrated 50 years as a company. We take really great pride in being able to speak on subjects like this and represent really a great hospitality organization and even just a greater Zebra organization. We hope that you were able to get something out of this this presentation. I know it's pretty quick and it's a lot of information to take in. We're going to make this deck available for anybody who would like to review it again at a later time. And then we're also going to include both Sue and myself's contact information if there are really any questions, or if there's any interest to speak with any more of our subject matter experts regarding any issues you might be having, or look for some guidance. So again, I want to thank the AIM group for letting us speak today, and means a lot to us, and we look forward to further participating in the future.
Thank you, Colin, and also thank you, Susan, for your information earlier. We have some time for questions or comments. I do have a few that I did receive. If you still have some that you would like to ask, you can either email our two panelists and I will give you their contact information, or you can chat that over to me right now via the chat option. Just select Name Member Services and you can type that up to me. The first question I have is about the case study with Caesars that you presented, and it's have you heard from Caesars since they are set to open up again soon? I mean, have they asked for additional guidance or anything like that?
So that I don't work actively with Caesars every day, so that I would have to pose that question to one of our account executives. What I can tell you is that a lot of these restaurants are looking to us to find ways of making the customer experience now safer in this new COVID environment, whether it be through contactless payment or capacity within a restaurant, where we're looking at, capacity counting and contact tracing and stuff like that. So, I can't speak specifically to the reopening of Caesars, but that's kind of what we're seeing as of now in the market.
Okay, thank you. And then another question based on the case study you mentioned, is it available for download more information anywhere?
That I would say reach out to us and we can provide you with all that information. I'm not sure that we have the case study readily available on our website, but that we can work with you to get you the information.
Okay, great, thanks. And I did put the contact information up there. Another question we have is, do you believe there will be new standards for food traceability prior to the full reopening of the United States?
I'll let Sue take that one.
So we do believe this in today's new norm that the regulations are changing. It's still to be determined what impact those will be, but as each day passes, new rules and regulations come along, and new requirements come along to being safer. What's going to be top of mind for restaurants is how do I convey that I'm safe for my customer to come back and eat, and how I convey that will be top of mind to draw my customer base back to me. There's still going to be quite a few people who will be reluctant, and how do we preserve that safety in that environment today? So regulations will be changing, and I believe they're anywhere from state and local to U.S. wide.
Another question we have is, why do you believe some companies still utilize manual methods?
I think that's just based on experience. We've seen a lot of this in the back of the house. While some of the larger establishments might not be, behind on this type of technology, we've definitely been in contact with customers that are looking to push things forward digitally and moving away from the pen and paper method. I do believe firmly that that is something that's still happening a good amount in the market, and that's just kind of based on our experience so far.
Okay, great. Another question we have is, how long is the usual sales cycle from conception to completion for some of the solutions you described?
Sue, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I would say that that's really solution orientated as to how long. Installing something like the dissolvable labels is relatively quick. Pulling out a full RFID traceability supply chain initiative is more involved and will take a longer time frame. So it's really use case driven and solution driven to determine the time frame.
Okay, great. Well, that wraps it up for the questions. I do have the contact information of both Susan and Colin up here. If you have more questions that you would like to ask them, you can follow up with them as well. I just want to thank Colin and Susan again for your time and your knowledge that you brought to us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I also want to thank our audience for their active participation. I will let you know when this information is available to download. So thanks again. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.